Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about the three main black teas that come out of India and talk about their similarities and differences and which ones you might prefer. Now before I begin, I highly recommend you check out our back catalog of episodes, especially the Fundamentals of Tea playlist, which talks about what is black tea, what is green tea, what is yellow tea, and I'll also make sure to put some banners up here that are applicable. So India is pretty much synonymous with two types of teas, black tea and then maybe Ayurvedic herbal blends like Shanti and Pitta and whatnot. Now, we've talked about in the episode on the history of tea, why does India grow so much tea? And it's mostly because England didn't like that China had the monopoly on the Camellia sinensis, or the tea plant. So they employed Robert Fortune to smuggle out some Camellia sinensis or China bush seedlings and bring it to India for it to be cultivated. And now that England could control the labor, could control the growing, then they could make more money off of it. And since England was the predominant empire of the world in the 19th century, their taste in tea became the prominent category of tea, you should say, that was drank by much of the Western world. So India does, of course, make other types of categories of tea aside from black tea, but it is synonymous with black tea. So there's three main regions of India that make tea: Assam, Darjeeling, and Nilgiri. And we're going to talk about each of these separately. Now, let's get to it. Assam. Assam is the region that's on the far eastern part that kind of abuts with China, Myanmar. It's kind of doesn't fit in with the rest of India. And over there, they grow naturally the Camellia sinensis assamica, or the Assam bush. Remember, there's two types of tea bushes. There's the China bush, Camellia sinensis, and there's Camellia sinensis assamica. And it's called assamica, named after the region of Assam. And so we'll just call it the Assam bush. The Assam bush is fundamentally different than the China bush. The Assam bush, as we've talked about before, is bigger leaves, and it grows better in lower latitudes near the equator. And because of these two things, and because of the terroir, the teas that come from Camellia sinensis assamica tend to have a bigger, robust taste. Also, because the leaves are bigger, you can get more tea out of it. And so historically, Assam, you can get loose leaf, like some of our blends. The dark chocolate mint blend that we have here uses Assam in its orthodox form, not like CTC. But the large majority of tea that comes from Assam is used for CTC, crushed chair curled. It's pulverized into that sawdust that you'll classically find in English tea, chai tea. Any tea that's exported, that's drunk in the West, is going to be pulverized CTC. It's also the type of tea that you find in iced tea. So an iced tea makes up 80% of the tea market. So Assam, when you want to think of Assam, think very robust, comes from the Assam bush, but most of it is used in iced tea. Then you got Darjeeling. Darjeeling is a region that's close to the Himalayas, and because of that, and because of its own terroir, the China bush is able to grow here. And so this is the one exception kind of in the Indian teas, where the other Indian teas are mostly going to be Assam bushes. Here, the China bush grows pretty well. And Darjeeling has been known as the champagne of tea. And for some reason, because of the terroir of Darjeeling, the region, there's no other place in the world that has this unique terroir. And because of that, the black tea that comes from here is very unique. And we do sell first flush Darjeeling, and we sell second flush Darjeeling. So first flush Darjeeling, as the name would suggest, is the first picking of the season. This typically is in March. In India, it's women who do all the picking over there, and they wear very festive costumes and outfits, and it's a big local endeavor in the tea plantations over there. And so the first flush tends to have a very unique floral taste. And then after that would come the second flush. And I think second flush Darjeeling is probably the more famous one throughout the world. And that's the one that kind of has a muscatel or a grape taste to it. You can also find a comp to that, even though it's not a perfect comp, with Oriental Beauty, the Taiwanese oolong. That's the one where the leafhopper insect nibbles on it. And because of that, while the leaf is still growing, it responds by oxidizing a little. And so the Oriental Beauty is a very unique tea in that it tastes similar to the muscatel. of second flush Darjeeling. And then Darjeelings continue to get plucked throughout the year, but the taste profile of the later flushes in the summer is not as famous or unique as the first and the second flush. And then you have Nilgiri tea. Nilgiri tea is probably the least well known to American audiences when it comes to black tea. Nilgiri is a region in the southern tip of India. Here, because of the terroir and just the geography, like Camellia sinensis or the China bush can also grow here. And Nilgiri black teas, one of the reasons they're not as famous is because when this stuff started to get harvested, it was really marketed toward Russia and toward England and not really the American market. And much of the Nilgiri, not all of it, because you can buy loose leaf Nilgiri, much of Nilgiri is also used for CTC, to be pulverized, to be used for what we call a commodity black tea, to be used for iced teas and whatnot. And Nilgiri has a very unique thing in that even when you pulverize into CTC, it still retains a very kind of robust, fresh flavor, and it retains its liquor. So if you ice tea Nilgiri tea, it's gonna have a really nice red liqueur to it. Because remember, black teas, even though we're not in China, black teas are called red teas in Asia because of their liquor. So that's Nilgiri. And so again, you can buy Nilgiri loosely, but Nilgiri as a whole, like Assam, is mostly used for CTC, for iced tea consumption. So in closing, Assam, that's the Assamica bush, big leaves. This is CTC, commodity, mostly used for iced tea. Darjeeling is a much lighter black tea. It's the champagne of tea. It has a unique taste to it, and that you typically can add sugar to it, but not milk. Whereas Assam and Nilgiri are going to be used for the classic either iced tea or they're going to be blended together. Many times you'll see Nilgiri blended with an Assam in an English blend, which is typically drank with milk and sugar. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you on your take on Indian black teas if you have a favorite. Until next time, take care. God bless.